First time for 2021. This man joins us. He is Jeff Erickson, rotowire.com, fantasy expert extraordinaire. And first off, happy belated New Year to you. And always love when we get a chance to kick off the new year with one of our regulars.
Yeah, great to be back and Happy New Year. It was Northwestern New Year. I was very happy about that. Good win over Auburn. Now we're getting ready to talk baseball and football playoffs. Did a football draft on SiriusXM today for the playoffs, so that was fun. Lots to talk about.
My alma mater gets a new coach. They get rid of Tom Herman and hire Steve Sarkisian last week.
Yeah, that was wild. They obviously had Sark in place with the timing, how everything went. How do you feel about that? I mean, obviously it might be a topic on your show, so you're not the first time you got a chance to talk about it, but it seemed kind of strange to me.
I'm not thrilled about it just because I'm not sold on Sark just yet. And he's had his off the field issues years past. Those were chronicled before when he had his last head coaching job and he stepped away from it. So I don't know. I mean, as you can tell, Tom Herman didn't work. And really since Mac was there, it hasn't been the same right now for the Longhorns. And, you win 8 or 9 games. That's not good enough. They won Big 12 championships. They won a chance to go into the semifinals and be one of the Final Four teams. And if you're always disappointing and you're not able to win those big marquee non-conference games or Oklahoma, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's pretty much Oklahoma's the way I read that there. If you don't beat Oklahoma, you're not in, and that's been their stopping point. But we've joked. The online joke is always Texas is back. Texas is back, and they might be in basketball actually. But I was surprised to see it because Herman only had a couple of years there, and it's not like they hired Urban Meyer. It was a guy that's coached a couple other places, and like you alluded to, didn't leave under the best auspices.
I don't think Urban wanted the job. Let's be honest.
No, I don't think so either.
Texas would have loved to have had Urban Meyer, but he probably passed on it, and then they went to door number 3 and figured they'll give Sarkisian the opportunity to see if he can resurrect his head coaching career and turn into something in Texas.
Yeah, it's similar to the Auburn path in the SEC is the way I see it. And I think some of this is like they were surpassed by A&M. If A&M's been a better team the last couple of years, they came close to the playoff this year, and A&M's got a perpetually hard path to get there because they're in the same division as Alabama and LSU, so that makes it really difficult for them. But still, they looked really good the other day, and they looked good this season, and I can see the envy there. But you run the risk of becoming Nebraska, where you keep firing coaches that were pretty good because pretty good's not good enough, and next thing you know, you're not even pretty good.
Did you get a chance to watch a lot of football this past weekend, Week 17? And give me your take on the big story, which was what happened with Doug Peterson Sunday night.
I'm not really surprised. He said ahead of time he wanted to give the chance for the kid to play, Sudfeld a chance to play. It's just that, your job is to figure out if Jalen Hurts is your quarterback of the future. I don't know if one extra quarter against the football team was really going to help you decide that or not, but it is a decision he made. For Giants fans, I don't feel too much pity. You were a 6-10 team. I mean, I don't really feel too bad for that, but yeah, I think they would have, if they really were like content on punting the game, I would have just started with Sudfeld. I mean, they had so many other guys sitting out the game, Miles Sanders, Deshaun Jackson, other guys in other auspices might have played. They didn't. I think they could have done the same thing with the quarterback situation there too, because there was a difference. Let's be honest. Jalen Hurts didn't play well that game. They moved the ball a little in the first half. He could run the ball, but he was 7 for 20, and it wasn't a good 7 for 20 or anything like that either.
So you take him out, put Carson Wentz back in. I'd rather see him have a chance with the game on the line than a guy like Sudfeld.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think they wanted to lose. I think he has to deny it, but this is a time-honored tradition. I mean, the Bucs have, I remember a few years ago they pulled their starters against the Saints to gain a few draft spots. And take heart, Giants fans. You gained 8 spots with that result in the draft order there. So there is that going for them.
So meanwhile, we've got super wild card weekend. I was looking at your wild card week value meter. This is interesting because there's still a lot of fantasy leagues that might be playing this week in some kind of way, shape, or form. And you're not just going to stop on the value meter after the regular season comes to an end, are you?
Yeah, I do the ranks every week. We have Chris List does a set of rankings for the entire playoffs for playoff drafts. For other contests, though, you decide each week who you're starting. So maybe that can help you make in that decision-making process. And that's the way I do it. Like I know in one contest you can use a guy once and then you're done.
Mhm.
Well, maybe use my rankings to help you on that respect.
There you go. That's the way to do it. And I like that because ultimately, there's another league now. There's a fantasy league that, listen to this idea. I never heard this before. So apparently, you got 14 players. They all get a playoff team that's going to be in the postseason, and they get to draft one player from that team and accumulate that person's points. And when the teams are out, they're out. And then you go all the way through until last team standing.
So who gets to decide who gets the Chiefs, who gets the Packers?
I think there's a random draw for the drafts is what
Because
I think.
that's I mean, if you draw the Bears, you're like, okay, great. I get a game. I mean,
Exactly.
same thing with the football team, a couple of the bigger underdogs. I mean, it's interesting if you get a team that makes a run, like say Tennessee wins this game, even though they're underdogs, and they got a great offense. So then you might be intrigued, kind of like last year. Tennessee so in our draft that we did, it's a snake draft. And there's no subs or anything like that. So you try to bankroll teams, and there's value in wait. You get Tennessee lower than you should. You get Jonathan Taylor like the last running back pick because they're only expected to get one game in, but they happen to win win a game and play 2 games, which isn't that far fetched. Then yeah, you're doing pretty good. I mean, would you really be truly stunned if the Colts upset the Bills? It'd be an upset, but I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, upset of the century or anything like that either.
No, Colts are good, but the Bills are playing amazing right now. They just look like they're peaking at the perfect time. Their offense is scoring a ton of points. Josh Allen's confidence is through the roof. And right now, they're probably one of the more dangerous teams that anybody's going to have to face in the postseason.
Yeah, and the fact is, and also the other factor of these games is they get an extra game. Only one team getting the bye. If you believe in the Bills and you really think that, hey, they got a chance to knock off KC, they're gonna at least get to the conference championship game. Well, then Josh Allen should be your first pick, especially in our draft where we drafted 2 quarterbacks. There's only 6 of us, so might as well go 2 QB. So yeah, and he actually ended up going second. I would have drafted him first overall ahead of Mahomes, though.
Well, it's that's interesting when you start to bring that up because I'm looking right now at the value meter, and because Mahomes isn't playing and neither is Aaron Rodgers, you've got Allen, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and Tom Brady, your top 4. Was Brady an easy 4th in that, or did that take a little bit of maybe persuasion just because Washington has a good defense?
They have a good defense, so it's not the Rams or anything, but yeah, it is a good defense. I mean, Brady's playing so well right now, though. I kind of gave a little weight to that. I mean, they're a big favorite in this one too. Roethlisberger sat out last week, and frankly, the Steelers' offense looked just as good with Mason Rudolph as it did with Ben. So, Cleveland, the Cleveland Pittsburgh game is like a wild card in a lot of different ways. We don't even know if they're going to play on time, let alone like who's going to play for the Browns. They might have some guys out with COVID still. We know Kevin Stefanski won't be there. We know on the Steelers side of things, he might not have Eric Ebron. Roethlisberger struggled recently too. It's not like he's been on fire. So it was almost a default 4 for Brady when you look at the alternatives.
I think I'm impressed with number one, J.K. Dobbins and the kind of season he's had in Baltimore, especially the second half of the year, and how now you've got him as your number 2 running back behind Derrick Henry for a Super Wildcard weekend.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Titans, they're far and away the worst defense in the playoffs, both against the running backs and against wide receivers. And we've got a tool on RotoWire where you go to our stats drop down menu and there's defense by position, and they'll show you, okay, these guys struggle against tight ends. These guys are great. You look at the Rams pass defense and how much better they are against wide receivers than the rest of the league. The gap between 1 and 2 between the Rams and the Washington football team is just as big as the gap between the the football team and the number 13 pass defense. So it shows you just how tough the Rams are. And that's why I'm really down on Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf this week.
Behind Dobbins, you've got Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, and Cam Akers. Those are your top 5. Then David Montgomery, Chris Carson, Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt, and Naheem Hines. Is Jonathan Taylor your pick for a Rookie of the Year this year after a 1,000-yard rushing season and just capping off that unbelievable Week 17?
No, Justin Herbert's my Rookie of the Year. And then I think I'd probably go Justin Jefferson second, and then probably Taylor. Jefferson, I mean, he's setting all kinds of rookie wide receiver records right now. And I'm so impressed with the breakdown of him. When you look at his routes he runs on film, opportunity matters too. He is able to step into a starting job, not week 1 or 2, which boggles the mind that he wasn't starting right away. But and nonetheless, he's so good. So I put him ahead of Taylor. Taylor, again, I had his struggles early on. But yeah, he's there. I mean, Antonio Gibson's in the conversation. But there's so many good rookie running backs. They all came on strong at the end of the year, except for Edwards Helaire, who got hurt, obviously.
I wonder if Jefferson gets the award over Herbert just because of how consistent he was from start to finish. And then, you could justify Herbert saying when he came in, he played well. He just was on a bad football team that had a bad defense. But that's going to be a really interesting race when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of funny because he looks like the best of the 3 rookie quarterbacks in the first round. Burrow looked great. Don't get me wrong, before he got hurt. But, staying on the field matters. That's why you can't have Burrow in this conversation. As a Bengals fan, though, I'm pretty happy to have him in the long run. I think that'll still work out. But yeah, I think you got to give Herbert the nod, at least in terms of rookie of the year.
Jeff Erickson here with us from RotoWire as we continue our weekly conversation. Now, we left off with wide receivers on your value meter, Jeff, for the playoffs this weekend. Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Allen Robinson are your top 5, followed by Jarvis Landry, Marquise Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Robert Woods, and then Terry McLaurin. Will there be any movement in the top 10 between now and this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, if Mike Evans proves to be fully healthy, then he gets a bump up, and that lowers some of the other Bucs wide receivers, I would say. So that'd be a starting point. I'm willing to be persuaded that I'm wrong about my low ranking of the Seattle wide receivers. I fear that Rams pass defense. I think you can also make a case for Antonio Brown to be in the top 10 too. Like Terry McLaurin worked on the side today, and he's dealing with that high ankle sprain. Maybe I should downgrade him. That's where there might be some movement. But I've got Metcalf, for instance, down at 14. And if you look what he's done lately, you can see that it hasn't been the same guy earlier on. And the 2 matchups against the Rams earlier, he was very mediocre in both games. That he wasn't personally. His output was, though.
Any upset picks that you'd like to give us as far as the games themselves? Do you see any real big sleepers this weekend?
I don't know about big sleepers. I think the line on the Bucs football team is too big, but I do think the Bucs will win, for instance. I don't really know what to expect out of Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, put a scare into Cleveland with their backup quarterback on the road and benching a bunch of their other stars. They should walk all over the Browns, but I don't know. Something about the Steelers gets me nervous too.
Okay. So those are Jeff's picks. You want more, you can check out his value meter at rotowire.com. And don't forget, free 10-day trial subscription. All you got to do is go rotowire/free, Jeff. Free for the new year and get a chance to experience 10 days of everything you guys have with baseball rolling out right now and the football playoffs and the NBA and NHL. There's a lot of good content on the site.
Yeah. And, the cycle never stops. One season ends, another begins. After the Super Bowl, we'll have 2021 rankings up on the site shortly thereafter, so people can do best ball leagues. The cycle has gotten shorter and shorter for us there in terms of off time. And, it's great because that means more people are on the site. I'm glad people want to know our opinion, but I also like a little extra time every once in a while.
I hear you. Baseball. Let's talk a little bit about that right now because you've got rankings going up. How far through are you with projections? And then when will the written projections come to match the statistics? Because that's always fun when you get a chance to read the write-up that also accompanies the season projections.
A lot of the top players, the outlook's already up on the site. And we've got to have a due date, I think, of the 18th of January for the magazine. And that's a pretty big deadline. Now, of course, that can get pushed back by a day or two, just if there's big breaking news. And one of the things about the baseball offseason is we're behind again, that all these top free agents are still available and we don't know when the season's going to start. So we're kind of dealing with a lot of unknowns. We don't even know what form baseball is going to be. Are we going to have the universal DH again? Are we going to have a compressed schedule? Will it be geographical? All these things haven't been decided yet.
There's no way to push the book off if you needed to, just to accommodate some extra time because, hey, we might not find a lot of these answers out until right before the season ends up starting.
Yeah, that's right. So The show must go on. And we always, say the magazine's a great thing to take in. And especially because the outlooks are going to be there and 90% of the outlooks aren't going to change. We're not really necessarily role based. We're talking about their base skills.
Mhm.
And no matter what the role is, that's going to apply. Now, closers, obviously that matters a lot more, but a hitter is a hitter is a hitter. And now sometimes you might get blocked, but at the same time, we're going to be, we know what the guy has done, what he's capable of doing. And that's what you need to focus on anyhow.
I'm looking forward to seeing sleeper picks and regression candidates. I always like to see guys that you think might not live up to their previous season or seasons, and guys that you think could really explode and take off.
Yeah, of course. And one of the things is I wrote about Corbin Burns a week and a half ago. I think I love him. I have him in my keeper leagues. I love that I got the breakout. Love that RotoWire's James Anderson tipped me off to him. I think he's going a little bit too early this year. Between the oblique injury, the risk of him not throwing enough innings, and a high walk rate, 10% walk rate. These things make me think that if he's your ace, your starting pitcher one, you might be a little disappointed. So I think he's going a smidge early. I still want him if I get him at the lower end of his range, but if he's going at his average price right now, I'm probably not going to get him.
So if the book is due in less than 2 weeks, when will we start to see the draft kit really take form on the website?
That's already there. We have our projections there. Our rankings are there. One set of dollar values. I'm going to probably do a lot of tweaking, and then every day I try to add a projection or two or three, some days even more. As we get into closer to draft season, I'll go through a draft and I don't like that ranking. Okay, I'm going to adjust this. I adjusted Chris Bassett yesterday just because I thought I had him a little too high. I think I had him as the 8th AL pitcher, which, yeah, that's high as much as I like him. But, that's the thing is, those projections are great in a vacuum. And then you see how they play out. And you're like, okay, I need to do some adjustments.
I think it's fun because from the end of the season, really through spring training, you're working on this. It's not like all of a sudden you decide one day, okay, it's time to hit baseball. From the end of the season, literally until the start of the next season, it's probably a continual process where you do a little bit every time. And that way you're able to keep the site fresh and not just have to dump all this information on at once.
Exactly. That's the whole point. And, it's always sharpen the mind. Maybe take a few days off just to let, breathe a little bit, especially after the never ending draft season that we had for baseball last year. But here we are, and it's time to get going again and, try to provide great content for people who can't wait to start studying baseball.
Before we wrap things up with you, we talked a lot about bowl games before we brought you on and talked about ultimately, in my opinion, 46 bowl games is a ridiculous amount of games. And I was going back 30 years, and 30 years ago, there were 18 or 19 games. And now we've more than doubled those in number, and it's probably going to eventually exceed 50. So it gets to the point where you say, when is enough enough? And the original discussion was players opting out, not playing in bowl games because ultimately they're just exhibitions more than anything else. And then I started talking about how it wouldn't bother me if we started to see a lot of these games go away. Where are you on the bowl game argument?
I like bowl games. I like, the content between the week before Christmas and the week after Christmas. I like daytime sports, but I from the kids and fans that treat it as a reward for a good season, great. I fear that if you cut back on the number of bowl games, all it's going to do is cut out the non-Power 5 conferences. And I think that's the shame of it, because they're the ones where those bowl games matter a lot more, especially if they get a chance to swing at the big boys every once in a while. So what I fear would happen is, okay, well, the Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to be protected. They're not going to lose their games. It's going to be the Ball States of the world, who had a really good season and then went out to Arizona and won a great bowl game against San Jose State. And, that's a good year for them. And I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that sort of joy. Plus, some of these guys are going to be playing on Sundays. You want to see them. So I'm still pro bowl game. And keep in mind, I went to a school that didn't regularly go to bowls. Northwestern, we went a 50-year drought with even going to a bowl game, let alone winning one. So, yeah, I cherish every bowl game. I can't wait to see them play. And I go to a few of them. I went down to San Diego a couple of years ago to the Holiday Bowl. And it was a cold, rainy night. And it still was an amazing time. And, I don't want to lose that. I understand, though, that there's probably a glut when you see, and this year especially because so many teams opted out, you saw like 3-7 Mississippi State winning a bowl game because they were playing a smaller conference and all that. But I guess you could lose a few, but it wouldn't. It doesn't bother me that much.
All right. Follow Jeff Erickson on Twitter at Jeff_Erickson, and also check out his work at Fangraphs.com. I'm so used to that already with Jay. So that's my first slip up of the new year. Jeff, congratulations. Rotowire.com. Although I wouldn't be surprised if one day you have a guest article at Fangraphs, given all the stuff you write during the course of the year.
Well, and you can find a lot of our player notes on Fangraphs too. As a matter of fact, we do business with them. So
very nice.
Yeah, great company. I like Jay a lot. Great writer. We've met a few times in person, had a beer at 12. So yeah, he's good people. And yeah, exactly. We like them a lot.
Way to bail me out of that one, Jeff. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Take care, Steve.